everyone, welcome to Uplift. This week I have Patricia Sandoval. When Patricia was employed by abortion giant Planned Parenthood, she was warned to never reveal what she saw. Now Patricia is an international pro-life speaker who courageously shares her personal experience of abortion and exposes what she encountered behind the doors of Planned Parenthood. Patricia is the host of television programme Pro-Life Report and author of highly acclaimed book Transfigured. Patricia, thank you for joining me today on Uplift. We're really excited to have you here. Patricia, your journey is truly a remarkable one. Could you share with us the beginning of your story and how you were introduced to Planned Parenthood and that your first perception of them as an organisation, what that was like?
So I was introduced to a sexual education course by Planned Parenthood when I was in the 6th grade. I was 12 years old. This was 1992. Before I was introduced to this course, I could say that I was pretty innocent. I mean, I was a young girl who played with dolls, and I didn't know what sex was. Unfortunately, I didn't have any type of formation at home by my parents. And, you know, I always say that your parents cannot give you what they themselves don't have. They didn't have the proper formation. You know, they didn't know truth as well. So they couldn't give my sister, my brother, and I that formation. So I received it from Planned Parenthood, like I said, at the age of 12. And they came into my school. And the first thing I saw on my desk were a lot of condoms, birth control pills, and a banana. And the sexual educators came in and said, well, you know, there's a lot of unwanted pregnancies in the United States. There's a lot of STDs. So we're going to teach you guys how to practice safe sex. We're going to teach you guys, you know, how to be responsible sexually. And so they spoke about the benefits and the good of masturbation. They encouraged us to start experimenting with our bodies sexually. They spoke about marriage could be between a man and a woman, between 2 women and 2 men. You know, you can choose whatever partner you'd like, whatever gender. They spoke about pregnancy. Basically, if you ever find yourself in a crisis, you know, unwanted pregnancy, you can come to our clinic. We will never tell your parents. We will always, we will always be private, and we will always, you know, if you ever need condoms, birth control, you know, you have access to that in our clinics. We are for the youth. We are for women. They told us that it wasn't a baby until 5 months gestation. And we have to remember back in 1992, we didn't have internet, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have social media, we didn't have the technology and the knowledge we have today about life and about maternity. And so everything that I learned about, you know, sexuality from Planned Parenthood, I believe that was truth. I was pretty much pro-abortion when I left school that day. I pretty much had these feminist, beliefs, I guess, what they taught us. And I say that I was a victim of the abortion industry for the first time with lies at the age of 12 years old. So I thought that real love was having sex with your boyfriends or people that you cared about. And they never told us, and they never explained the real consequences when you have sex before marriage, basically.
Wow. And later in life, you met Planned Parenthood again, but this time it was a job opportunity which you were interested in. Can you shed some light on what that role was and what your Planned Parenthood experience consisted of as well?
Actually, my second encounter with Planned Parenthood was when I myself had an abortion. So I believe that those courses on sexuality, the false information, the lies, it's all a trap, because the abortion industry, they need, you know, certain amount of abortions. They have to meet a quota. And so they go after the little ones. They steal their innocence. I believe my innocence was stolen, my purity. I believe it's a setup. So in the future, these young girls will will end up in their clinic. Safe sex does not exist. Birth control and condoms do not prevent an unwanted pregnancy. And I was a victim of that trap, basically. So I ended up pregnant. I didn't know how on 3 occasions. I was using birth control. I was using condoms, and it failed because it fails. It's not always, what is it? It doesn't always protect you against a pregnancy, right? And so on my second abortion, I went to Planned Parenthood, and they were nice, and they never told my parents about my abortion appointment, and they always gave me free condoms, free contraceptives, and I always thought that they had my back. And so I was a victim of Planned Parenthood the second time during my second abortion, and again, lied to, deceived. They never told me about post-abortion syndrome. They told me that I would be free and liberated, that my problem was solved after that abortion. But in reality, I was a woman in bondage. I was a woman that suffered greatly mentally, emotionally, and physical damage after each abortion. And so I was a victim of Planned Parenthood during one of my abortions as well. And then after the third abortion, I went to work for Planned Parenthood, thinking that I was going to help women, that I was going to help the youth, and I was going to give back to my community, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You thought it was a good thing to do at the time. So the abortion industry sugarcoats the reality of abortion with phrases like, products of conception, pregnancy remains, and this is obviously to disguise the brutal reality of what takes place, in an abortion. Can you tell us, about the reality of what takes place behind the doors of these abortion clinics, since you worked there?
So the first day on the job, I was basically hired as an illegal nurse. I speak fluent Spanish as well. My parents are from Mexico, so I'm a Mexican American. And when I applied for a job as a receptionist, I had never went to nursing school. I had no nursing credentials. They needed my Spanish urgently here in the US. And so they said, we know you're not a nurse, you don't have the credentials, but we're going to hire you here as a nurse. So they illegally hired me with no credentials, no nursing school, to work and assist the abortionist and the patients. I was astounded to know that 95% of the abortion patients in this particular clinic in California were women from Mexico that did not speak any English. But as pro-lifers, we know that abortion is targeted against minorities like myself. When I started my job, they trained me how to change basically my language, how to, hide things. It was very weird because I've always worked in the medical field, and I was always trained to tell the truth, to have compassion with patients, and to be friendly. And here they're training me to ignore tears. If a woman comes in crying, she's looking for other options. She's looking for somebody to help her. And I have to ignore those tears because I can't give her another option. Abortion is her only option. I was told never to bring pictures of my family members, of my nieces, my cousins, because if a woman walks into the clinic and sees a photograph of a family, she might be traumatized and walk out. I was trained never to use the word baby, mother, father, he, she, and fetus, because even the word fetus gives human dignity. Any word that gives human dignity, I was unable to use. The most important thing was to hide the screen during the ultrasound. Usually the abortionist performs an ultrasound before the abortion. And if a woman begs to see the screen must face the abortionist, and she could never see it. I was supposed to refer to it as an it. They didn't care how, but it had to be an it, a sack of tissues, a clump of cells, and it was never a baby. And at first I was kind of confused. I was really confused about, the language that I had to use and hiding things. It was just kind of weird, not being friendly or compassionate when a woman cries. But as I was counseling 50 women on Monday morning, 50 Monday mornings was counseling day. I had to prepare 50 women for their abortions. I was told that if they did not make it to their abortions, that I could lose my job. And I had to basically prepare them. and motivate them and tell them that I myself had abortions and that I was doing great. And when I counseled each woman and little 13-year-old girls, there's a lot of young girls. I seriously thought, you know what? This girl needs to have an abortion. She's 13 years old. She's going to ruin her life, right? And she's going to ruin a baby's life if she does continue this pregnancy. And I counseled them and I motivated them. And I really thought that I was helping them. But it was Wednesday morning, the third day of my job at Planned Parenthood, that I saw truth. And I had to assist the abortionist. I was told that morning to never tell a soul what goes on behind the doors of that clinic. I was to never tell the mothers, and she used the word mothers, that after each abortion, we throw her babies away in the garbage. And she even acknowledged the fathers. And never tell the fathers that are sitting and waiting in the lobby that after each abortion, we throw their babies away in the garbage. And that was scary when she was saying this to me. And I seriously did not understand. But it was when I assisted the first abortion. When I stood behind the abortionist, he told me in my ear, he whispered, he said, time is money. Each abortion can only last 5 minutes because we got to get all of these girls in and out, and time is money. We cannot waste any time. So I stood behind the abortionist. And it was the first time that I actually saw an abortion, because during my 3 abortions, I didn't want to see anything. I blocked myself. I didn't want to see anything. So I had to see. He took his instruments out. You know, when you're performing surgery, because abortion is considered a surgery, I mean, they're sharp objects. But then it dawned on me as I stood behind the abortionist. She was kicking and screaming. He was dodging her legs, and he had the tip of the vacuum. It's literally like a vacuum. It's called a cannula. And the tip of the tip is a pretty sharp object. So it's like a spear going in, right? It's an attack. And when I stood behind the abortionist, I thought to myself, oh, he's going to retreat. He's going to stop the abortion because this girl is violent. You know, this looks pretty violent because abortion is a violent act. And he didn't stop. Because if he were to stop, and any little tissue, anything left behind, can result in an infection, and she can actually die during the abortion. So he had to make sure that everything was out. But then it dawned on me, wait a minute, how does he know that everything's out? How does he know that he has the whole sack of tissue? How does he know everything's out, or he's not damaging her womb or perforating her womb? Well, that's exactly why women die during abortions. That's why it's never safe, because it's a complete blind man's surgery. Can you imagine a surgeon say, good morning, I am Dr. Sandoval. I will perform heart surgery on you, but first let me turn the lights off. Let me just put a handkerchief over my eyes and let me do your surgery completely blind. That's what abortion is. And that's why when we get all these radical feminists in different countries screaming, you know, legal abortion, safe abortion, it's a lie. That does not exist. Because legal or illegal is so dangerous because it's a complete blind man's surgery. And the abortionist looked at his watch and says, all right, I think I'm done. I'm not sure, but I think I'm done. I'm going to turn off the machine. Can you imagine a surgeon, okay, during surgery, tell his staff, hey, you guys, I don't know if I'm done. Let me guess. I think I'm done. Let's just put stitches in here and wrap it up. Is that really medical care? Is that reproductive rights? Is that really medicine? No, it's not. Guessing? It's not. So I had to be the abortionist eyes because he's unsure. He doesn't know if what he did inside of that womb. And so I had to grab the bag that was attached to the machine. They took me into this little hidden room in Planned Parenthood. And this other girl that was a fake nurse also was training me. And I had to dump all the contents into this big glass dish called a Petri dish. And I really thought that I was going to look for a sack of tissue. I really believe that. I was told that before my 3 abortions. But to my surprise, my coworker takes out forceps. And to my surprise, she raises to the light a little arm with a little hand extended. And she said, this is part number 1. We need 5 parts of the baby to verify that the abortion was successful. And the first thing that I noticed on that little hand, this little baby was 3 months gestation, were the fingerprints. And inside of me, I started to scream, the fingerprints identify us as irrepeatable human beings. She found the second part, the third, which was a little leg, the fourth, and the head, which broke my heart. This baby had eyes, nose, little ears, but this baby's mouth was open wide in anguish because this baby was screaming. This baby was crying, but there was nobody there to defend him or hear his cries. And he didn't survive, obviously, that abortion. And that's when I saw the cruel reality. I was lied to. I aborted 3 children, not 3 sacks of tissues. And I was a victim of the abortion industry. First time when I was 12 years old by the lies. 3 times during my abortions, and the 5th time working behind the doors. And after that, my life was chaos. I only was there for a month, and I got heavily addicted to drugs because of the post-abortion syndrome I was suffering and the trauma on top of that from working in the industry.
Can you just, this came to mind, can you just speak about like the, guilt that some women feel after an abortion? You said that you weren't told about post-abortion syndrome, what can happen. Do you find that is very common in women, or in your experience, how would you describe like what you felt like after?
It's very hard to figure yourself, especially in my story, because I not only was I lied to, but I saw where my children ended up. I smelt it. I touched it. My hands were stained with blood, with innocent blood. I saw it myself. So for me, it was very hard to forgive myself. And I had to go through an post-abortion healing process to really go deep and heal the wounds. And not only forgive, I forgave my partner, right? That was pretty much passive. When I had my abortions, it was the same partner. I had to forgive the whole system. I had to go through a process. Okay, I had to first forgive the people that came to my school when I was 12 years old and lied to me and set up this trap. I had to forgive all the abortionists that lied to me, the staff, the nurses. I had to go through a deep healing process to forgive so many. And then I was finally able to forgive myself.
Exactly. It's important. So obviously witnessing the horrific, remains and that experience that obviously prompted you to leave Planned Parenthood. Was it easy leave Planned Parenthood?
For me, it was because I was horrified. I was horrified working there. Women constantly crying, hemorrhaging, being dragged through the hallways, and just seeing literally a Holocaust back there. For me, I knew it was, it was not helping the youth. It was not helping women at all. For me, it was easy. But when I would analyze my coworkers, there are people that are so numb. They're working behind the doors like zombies. The abortionists, the staff, they're so desensitized that they just get so used to it, and for some reason they're there still. I was fortunate that I was reacting to this horror, literally this like horror movie, and I left a couple of weeks after working there. But there are people that do work there and they're completely desensitized and they're completely numb. And I also believe that they are victims of abortion. They are traumatized by abortion and they're still there. And, if you are a person of faith, pray for those people. Pray for those people, for the veils, and the scales to fall off their eyes, because they also need healing.
They do indeed. And do you think that any of them would face internal pressure on them not to leave, that there would be a fear put on them from other co-workers if an abortionist decides they want to leave that industry? Do you think that that's something that exists within Planned Parenthood?
In California in particular, what I saw is that, they go after kids in universities. They go to their schools, they have their booth and their stands, and they offer, employment to kids that are starting, their first careers. And what they do in Planned Parenthood is they actually give you a very good salary because they know that seeing this behind the doors is not easy. And a lot of kids or a lot of youth are motivated by money, right? A lot of kids, they want good careers, they want to make money. And a lot of them stay because they do pay very well. I remember when I was given the job, they gave me double the amount I was, getting in my prior job. And so, they go to these kids that are, young, coming out of school, and they also attack them offering employment, and they do give good benefits and good pay. And they gave you, the opportunity to move up, right? Move up in position if you stay with them. And so I think that a lot of people are motivated by the pay.
What would you say to abortion workers who truly believe that their work is to help women and girls, and they glorify this on social media? What would you say to those abortion workers who do that?
I truly believe, especially abortionists, I believe that they know the truth because it's in front of them. I believe that they are also motivated by this blood market, basically. I believe that they do know that they're not helping women. I believe that they know that they're lying. I just think they're blinded. I think as physicians, or, they're not really physicians because physicians cure, they have to remember, their promise as medical professionals is to care for the sick, to give healing options to patients. And I think they need to remember why they became physicians, basically. But I believe in my heart that they know truth. And there's something very big behind it all that motivates them to keep lying. And I believe it's the blood market. But they just need to be people that, they need to remember why they became physicians. And the purpose of being a medical doctor is to save lives and not to kill lives.
So here in the UK, DIY abortion is becoming the fastest growing abortion method. Women are sent drugs following a phone consultation from an abortion provider, and are left to take these drugs at home with no medical supervision or support. Because of this method, then, women are forced to see the reality of the remains of their unborn child. But abortion workers are not required to meet the women or carry out ultrasounds, like you mentioned. They do not see the remains of the unborn child. Do you think this could be causing a disconnect for many abortion workers who now are not exposed to the violent reality of what abortion really is?
Yeah, well, because if you are working, I've met people that worked in Planned Parenthood and it didn't work on the post-abortion side of stuff, and they have no idea what goes on after an abortion. They've never seen an abortion, and they didn't have to look for the body parts. So, they still think that they're doing something good working in the industry. But I can tell you, I've worked for many years helping women heal their abortions. The abortion pill is so much more traumatizing because, one, when the woman takes that abortion pill at home, now she is a direct killer of that baby. Second, there's no, like you mentioned, there's no medical staff around. These pills cause women to hemorrhage. And it could be so unsafe, not having anybody if some, complication happens at home. And the third one is they actually see their baby. And most women that I've met that have healed their abortions, thank God, they see their baby. And the first reaction is to flush the toilet. Or usually they have an abortion as they're taking a shower and they actually see their baby go down the drains. And so every day when they go into their bathroom, to their restroom, they remember the abortion, and they remember seeing their child, and then the guiltiness is just unbearable. They remember flushing that toilet or that baby going down the tubes, and the healing needs to be even deeper. So this is the most common method today is the abortion pill, but it's so much more. Abortion itself is dangerous, very dangerous, but this is even more dangerous. But there is now a disconnect with the abortion workers because a lot of them work in clinics where they don't actually see the babies, and it's even harder for them to get out. But the abortion pill is even more traumatizing for the woman who has had an abortion. And it's harder for her to heal. And so this is what we're facing today after the pandemic. This has been even more popular. Now there are people that can receive the abortion pill by mail. Now the abortion pill today is offered in universities and vending machines and schools. And now they're even trying to have, here in the US, they're trying to prove this over the counter. Like at CVS, Walgreens, at Rite Aid, at these pharmacies, they're trying to prove it in certain states where it's legal to have an abortion now after the Roe versus Wade was overturned. And now this is becoming more accessible and more available without medical staff.
That's crazy. That's just crazy. You have shared in your own testimony, obviously your experience with abortion. There seems to be a colossal number of women who are suffering mentally or emotionally following an abortion. We see this online. We see it even on TikTok. Young women in particular are sharing their stories of abortion grief online. And I know you said you've had 3 abortions. Did you ever feel informed by your doctor of the reality of the procedure, and were you prepared for any emotional or mental impact in any of those abortions? I know you said you weren't told about post-abortion syndrome, but I was like, maybe one time you were told about it. Maybe I'm just thinking, was there any instance that your doctor said in any of your abortions, actually you could actually hurt after this? Did he say, or he or she say?
No, because they sell abortion to you like a solution, like a way out, like a liberation. You'll be the same woman you were before you were pregnant. They sell it to you as like a crisis, as a problem. The only thing that they have to put on the consent form that I remember back in the 90s was, you can die during this abortion. And if you die, your family members cannot sue us. The only thing that they told me post-care instructions, right, that was going to happen was cramping, bleeding, and here's some Tylenol, and you can, go back to your normal life and go back to work. But they never have a follow-up appointment, right? They consider abortion as a surgical procedure, but they never do a post-care follow-up appointment on you to see how you're doing, to see if there were any complications. And they never tell you the truth about post-abortion syndrome, because I believe that if post-abortion syndrome was explained to women and even men before the abortion, I believe many women would not have abortions, and many men wouldn't be so passive or force their girlfriends to have abortions, right? But no, usually when you have a surgical procedure, you always have a post a care appointment. Not for abortion. They basically want to get rid of you after that, and they just want you out of there.
And so how do you feel your life was impacted by abortion?
My life is still impacted. I have received so much healing. I have had post-care abortion, help. I've had several different types of therapies that I've gone through that have been very healing for me. But I still go through post-abortion syndrome. For instance, when I was pregnant with my first daughter, and I'm so grateful that I was able to have a child after 3 abortions, because one abortion, you run the risk of being infertile and having your womb destroyed, which was my case. Really, I believe that becoming a mother again is very miraculous for me. But, when I was pregnant with my daughter, those thoughts, why do I want this one? And I killed 3 others, when I cut my daughter's nails when she was a little baby, and I basically pinched like like a little piece of her skin, and she started to cry, then I had those thoughts, wow, if I hurt my daughter, just cutting her little fingernail, imagine what my other 3 children suffered during those abortions. So I still have those thoughts. And I give this talk, I share my story throughout the world, especially with youth. They are my motor. I want to share the story for prevention. I would have wanted so much that somebody would have gone to my school and told me the truth about abortion. And that's what I try to do. And when I see, university students or teenagers, I still have those thoughts. Wow, my children would have been this age. And then, the anniversary of my children's deaths, basically, I remember those dates when I've had those 3 abortions. And But I could tell you that I constantly forgive myself. Those thoughts come in, and I know that those thoughts aren't good, and they don't come from a good place. And so I constantly say, it's okay. I'm forgiven. I forgive myself. You know, um, Having two more children after three abortions is basically an act of mercy. It's an act of mercy, and they're miracles. And I have to constantly heal. I'm constantly healing. And I believe until my grave, I'm going to constantly be healing, because the wounds and the trauma are so deep when it comes to abortion.
Wow, wow. And you mentioned therapy as well. And what else would you recommend for anyone on their journey of healing?
I believe being a pro-life activist has been very healing for me. That's helped me with guilt, is being more active in the pro-life movement, is really giving back and kind of repairing the damage that I've done. I live a life of reparation. I speak truth to the kids. I go march, I go speak. And that's very healing for me. And every time I tell my story, we're not all called to tell our story. It's not easy, to go on a stage and share, your abortion stories, because there's so much shame behind abortion. Still, even as a person that's healing, and I've forgiven myself, there's still shame there, and it's not easy. But I feel that becoming involved, and I'm just so grateful that so many babies have been saved through my story. That's healing, is giving back to the truth, is giving back women their real rights, right? So abortion steals the real rights of a woman to know the truth about abortion. It steals the right of the father, because if the father, of that baby wants to save the life of his baby, and the woman decides to have an abortion, he doesn't have a voice either. He doesn't have a right to save the life of his child. And then it steals the life of the baby, the right of the baby's life. And so abortion truly steals the rights of the whole family. And so just to bring awareness and truth and really fight for the real rights of women, men, and that baby of a whole family is just so healing as well. So I'm repairing the damage that I've done, and it's been healing for me.
Amazing. What would you say to those who believe men should not have an opinion on abortion, and why do you think abortion activists are so eager to eliminate fathers from the conversation?
I believe that it's very selfish, and it's unfortunate, because in my case, the first two abortions that I had, I lied to my partner. I told him that I had miscarriages. I didn't tell him the truth, and I stole his paternal rights. Sometimes women, we have intercourse with men. We need the man, right, to fill that emptiness, to feel loved, and and it takes two to tango. It takes two for conception. It takes men and women having sex, right? And the fruit of sexuality, because sexuality is beautiful. It's not a bad thing. It's beautiful, but the fruit are babies. I mean, it's kind of like when you go into a vehicle and you press on the gas pedal, the car's going to go. I mean, sexuality, the fruit of it, it's a baby is going to, it's going to come out of that act. We always, as a society, we always want to separate pleasure and desire, sex, with babies, and we can't separate them. They go hand in hand. Babies are the fruit of sexuality. And so, when it comes to abortion and that decision, then we want to take the men out, which is unfair, because the reality of it all, we know that it's a baby in the moment of conception. This shouldn't even be a debate, because this is scientifically proven that it comes from human species. That's a baby. It has the DNA of its own. Everything is there. It's just the size of that baby in the moment of conception. And so it's completely unfair to take that right away from men, to take their voice, to take their paternity and their fatherhood away. And that's why it's really sad when women as politicians, or presidents, judges, lawyers, educators, fathers, they think that they're defending women's rights. They're for abortion, but in reality, they are taking away the real rights of women, and they're taking their fellow brothers, their fellow men rights away as well. And it's completely unfair.
So true, so true. So Patricia, you're an international, well-known pro-life speaker, and you're busy, trying to build and restore a culture of life. What words of encouragement would you say to somebody who maybe is hesitant to stand up for the unborn and make their voice heard. What would you say to that?
To not be scared. I mean, this world is upside down. It's crazy. More and more, the young people are believing the lies of society. And the attack is against marriage and against the family. And as human beings, we are created to run against the current, to be brave and bold and not to be scared and not to care what the world thinks and not to be like blinded sheep following whatever lies the world says and not truly investigate, truly study. But again, we need to be light in darkness, especially these times. And, I want to tell the young kids, don't believe the lies, that the global warming and climate control and that we're overpopulated. Those are just lies. And they're, attack against marriage and the family. Do not be scared, to have a beautiful marriage, to commit. And don't be scared to have children and big families. Today I go to so many schools and I ask kids like, oh, do you want to get married? How many kids do you want to be? And the response is, oh, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have children. The world is so bad and marriages are just, broken and families are dysfunctional today. I don't want to go through that. And it doesn't have to be that way. There's always hope. And big families are beautiful, but they're less common today. So don't be scared. Don't be scared to find love, to commit, and to have beautiful children and to populate the world. And we're not overpopulated. That's a complete lie. I just really want to encourage people, and especially you, to not be afraid in these times. We have to be brave and bold and be an example.
Well said, well said. And just something came to mind. You mentioned that you turned to drugs as well after seeing the reality of abortion. Can you just speak a bit more about that, like how you got off drugs to how you are now? Can you just share just a bit of insight into that, please? That just came to mind.
Yeah, I actually felt like a murderer after working at Planned Parenthood. I felt so guilty. I turned to cocaine to numb the pain. I never thought I'd be a person addicted to drugs. When I was young, I was a straight A student with honors. I had big goals and dreams for my life. And I ended up, after 3 abortions and working behind the industry, so traumatized and so sad. I ended up as a homeless person, addicted to cocaine and methamphetamine. And I was completely lost for so many years. But I really thank my mother. My mother prayed for me. I thank my mother for her prayers. And my mother helped me see truth. My mother took me into her home. She fed me. She gave me so much love. And she really led me to the path of healing and forgiveness. So I thank my mother for her love and for her prayers. I thank God for his mercy. And that was my journey of healing. But, this is pro-life, defending life. It's a human issue. I've met so many people that are atheist and, they know science, they know what truth is, and they go to the March for Life. So many different religions or non-religions. This is a human dignity issue, and it's scientifically proven that life begins at conception. So we should all be involved in defending human life, that is under attack and extinction. We're basically, under extinction. So, but anyhow, yes, I thank my mother. I thank my mother for my healing.
That's so lovely. So thanks again for sharing your incredible story.
No, thank you
you're doing
so
great
much
work.
for having me. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Join us next time for more interesting pro-life guests.